Podcast, how stories shape and change our lives. Well, hello again, friends and fans of the podcast. Welcome back. You may have no doubt noticed that I have changed the name of my podcast from the Myth and Fairy Tale podcast to Mythic Imaginations podcast. So I just thought I would offer here a little bit of a brief rationale for my doing so. Not much of anything has really changed or will change about what we're already doing together here. In fact, one of the reasons for changing the name of the podcast was to try and convey a little bit more closely what I should say a more accurate representation of what it is that we're doing here and that I'm interested in doing here. For me, this podcast is more focused on the stories that we're learning to tell about ourselves as human beings, having been imbued and informed by the stories of myth and fairy tales, as well as other resources. The process by which we come to know and even consciously tell our own stories, both individual and collective, that's what interests me the most here. And even as we hearken back to myths and fairy tales as our richest and oldest resources for revealing back to us the process of how our living stories work and what kind of relationship we are choosing to have with them. Hence the term Mythic Imaginations. This is precisely what I was most interested in investigating is what is our imagination doing? How does it want to operate on its own? Unconstricted by ego expectations and other things. So the process by which we learn to tell our own stories and reveal more of ourselves to ourselves in the process of telling them overtly, that is to say consciously and meaningfully. The term itself to me also gives me some flexibility, frees me up to pursue a vast array of interesting topics coming from different places, but that nonetheless reveal back to us the truths of our human condition in a multitude of different ways. My interest in specific myths and fairy tales, including the profound wisdom they do have to offer us, it's no less significant to me here, and I fully intend on continuing to use those throughout the podcast as they occur to me as necessary or vital part of the context of whatever it is that we're discussing, especially whether it's myself or just in conversation with guests of the podcast, just getting curious about our own lives and learning how to tell those stories. I essentially feel like this is a title that not only more accurately reflects the overall purpose of the broadcast itself, but it broadens it. It leaves it a little bit open to a wider door for investigation and curiosity, and ultimately the freedom for us to tell our stories as we would like to tell them, whatever those stories are, and wherever they happen to come from. So, the journey continues. I'm looking forward to many of the upcoming episodes, and is in essence just moving right along as we have been. So, again, I appreciate those of you who have tagged along in this journey, who have subscribed to this podcast and continue to benefit and get something important and meaningful out of what we're doing here. Please continue to join us and invite friends, other people that you know that would really dig what we're doing here and you feel would get something very useful or important or healing out of it for themselves. So anyway, thanks again, and we continue along, and I'm looking forward to our next upcoming episodes. See you back here then.